OpenAI has outlined their 5 steps for where they think we need in order to reach AGI or super intelligence or whatever you want to call it. This is really fascinating because for so long we've kind of heard these concepts of like, oh, this is what we're working for. Like, I think OpenAI's like mission statement or something is like to help bring, AGI, safe AGI, whatever. And Sam Altman's gone on all of these talks and things saying like, look, if we have to spend $5 billion, it'll be worth it, whatever, to get to AGI or 50 billion. No, he's at $50 billion. If that's what it took, it'd be worth it, whatever, right? So there's a lot of talk about it, but like, what does it exactly mean to get there? What are their steps, and what's their kind of definition of it? It's interesting because this definition is really important for them also as a company and like financially because Microsoft, when they gave them $10 billion and bought 49% of the company, okay, awesome. And Microsoft obviously been like making a lot of money from this, but they said as soon as you reach AGI, or OpenAI said, as soon as we reach AGI, Microsoft doesn't have ownership of our AGI. Like they can use these AI tools we have, but AGI is off the table. Now, the problem was it's kind of opaque. Like, what is AGI? What does this exactly mean? So, in my opinion, them coming out and putting down this definition has a lot of big implications for that $10 billion investment and also for Microsoft as a whole. I was worried Microsoft would keep pushing the bench polls or the benchmarks, and they might still do that, the goalpost, sorry, because they might just try to squeeze this technology as long as they can before like giving up on it, or relinquishing control. But I think this is a big thing. So, anyways, today on the podcast, we're going to break down what the 5 steps of AGI are, or leading up to it, how OpenAI plans to get there, what this means, all of it. It's super interesting. But Connor, of course, as you all know, is he's the man on LinkedIn talking about this. So he's been all over this, researching it. Connor, what are you seeing on the topic?
This is wild, and yeah, that was a good setup because you're right. There's two big implications. There's what happens in the world with AGI, and then there's the financial aspect with Microsoft and everything else. And you and I have talked a ton about, and I'm kind of obsessed with this, as you say, moving the goalposts. When do we hit AGI? It's so ill defined. We've talked before. Dario Amodei, who heads up and founded Anthropic. He was on with Ezra Klein, I don't know, a month or 2 months ago, maybe, or something like that. And he seemed to be indicating that, yeah, this is like around the corner. I mean, like, and I don't want to, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to misquote him, but he was really giving the indication that, like, in 2 years, the world is going to look very, very different. And then you hear other people that, the Jan LeCuns of the world and people like that who are saying, like, this is still the intelligence of a house cat. So the AGI getting labeled by OpenAI, I think, is a huge and bold and amazing step. I'm going to read them off for you all and the listeners here. This is AI applied. So this is all of us are coming to these conclusions together. These are just Jade and I kind of thinking about this. But Jaden, I'm going to read this off and I want your reaction on this because to me,
Yeah.
first of all, this is OpenAI's executives coming up with this. This is not some kind of scientific measurement. This is sort of an opinion, right? Which is really interesting to me. And it also sort of strikes me as, like there was just like a few moments in there that I'm like, really, that's how they think of it. So let me read them off, Jaden. I want your reaction on these. So again, out of OpenAI, this is something put together by their executives who can imagine who they are. So the 5 levels to get to OpenAI are: level 1 is conversational AI. I'm literally reading this. I grabbed this out of Perplexity, but it also comes from like Tom's and Bloomberg, everything else. Level 1 conversational AI. This is the current level where OpenAI believes it stands right now. It refers to AI systems that can interact with humans in a conversational manner. Obviously, ChatGPT, right? Level 2,
Yeah.
OpenAI is called reasoners. OpenAI is approaching this level. At this stage, AI systems would be capable of solving kind of at a PhD level. This is what we're kind of hearing GPT-5 will be. I think Mira Murati was the CTO of OpenAI was talking about this. Level 3, agents, AI systems that can operate independently for extended periods, potentially spending several days working on something. Level 4, innovators. At this level, AI systems would be capable of developing innovations and making new discoveries. And then level 5 is organizations. And this is, I suppose, what they mean by AGI, which is the highest tier. And this is when they can perform the work of an entire organization. So just conversational, where we are, reasoners, which is probably coming out like very, very soon, PhD level, agents that can operate for extended periods, level 4, innovators that can come up with innovations. And then level 5, AGI, it'll basically run your organization. It just, I guess, I want to pass this over to you, Jaden, and get your thoughts on it. But I don't know. I mean, I was kind of expecting something a little different, something a little more sentient, emotion, sort of like feeling, running things. This just feels like it's going to be so capable that it can run your organization almost like a big machine. I don't know. I was kind of confused by it a little.
Okay, well, I have so many thoughts on this, you'll get sick of them. But I
No, go.
recently had a really interesting epiphany love to run by you. Before we get to this epiphany or this thought that maybe is a terrible rabbit hole, um, chatbots. Okay, the first thing I want to say about this, I like it because I feel like we know the roadmap now. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
when's
yeah.
GPT-5 coming out? What's GPT-5 going to be capable of? When's AGI coming out? It's just like so like we don't really know, and everyone's like hyping up, GPT-5 and this and that and the next thing, and it's like we don't really know where it's going. But this is like very pragmatic. It's step by step. We know exactly what the
Love that.
roadmap is,
Love that.
and I like this.
Love that.
Everything's understandable here. So kudos to them for like, please, you're
Agreed.
like killing all of the crazy hype conspiracy theories. This is what they're doing. Chatbots were there. Reasoners, I have a bone to pick because I feel like we may have gotten clickbaited, or I don't know, not clickbaited, but like, and not scammed. I don't even know what the right word I'm thinking for is, but like we got a little overhyped on the reasoning abilities of GPT-4. I think when it first came out,
Yeah,
because OpenAI
very
came out
true.
with all of these research things that said it scored this high in the bar exam, it did this and that and that, and like when people have retried to do them in the afterwards, it didn't do as good. So there's like all this stuff about cherry pick data. This kind of goes back to where we've roasted in the past Google and Gemini pretty hard for like
Yeah,
some of their fake demos. I think AI
big
companies
demos,
are
right?
learning. It was probably something I'm hoping was just like a past phase that a lot of these companies kind of did at the beginning, and we're hopefully getting beyond that. Because if this is on their roadmap as level two, I don't really feel like we're really at reasoners right now. But I felt like we've sort of been sold that these things have been reasoners in the past, and then they're just like, but this model's not out yet, and then like it slowly comes out and it doesn't feel like it's that good at reasoning. It's
Right,
okay, but
right,
it's
right.
not that good. It's not where I'd like it to be. Anyways, that's my bone to pick on that. But I think, yeah, we're probably getting to reasoners next very soon. Agents after that, very exciting. Um, Innovators, yeah, like these things. I think you and I had this conversation maybe after last week's recording, where we're sitting there chatting after, and I was just like, the conversation we just had. There's no way an AI model could have had that, because I'm sitting here and I'm like pulling experiences from my back, and I'm like, oh, in the past I started this company and did this, and this little element of it didn't work, and I have like this whole backstory of everything I've done in my life that I'm pulling stories and anecdotes from, and I think that's what people really enjoy in listening to in a podcast, but you also want that in like your experiences shape what you create. And
Yeah,
so when you're, whether that's a business or your art or whatever you're creating, your experiences like really play a pivotal role of shaping that and giving it feeling and emotion. This goes into my rabbit hole that I'm diving down, that I'm really
yeah,
curious on. Anyways, I think that is critical for the innovators level of this. And then the organization, it's like whatever. That's kind of like a combination of innovators, agents, and chatbots. It's just like merging everything. It's like the glue layer. It's honestly what I
right.
hope to accomplish with AI Box, is like getting pretty much giving people a jump start on this whole organization level where they're able to use this thing to automate a lot of their stuff. But anyways, okay, here's my question for you. With talking about AGI, talking about innovators, and talking about how I just said pulling like your past experiences. What if, Connor, hear me out on this. What
I'm
if,
listening.
in order to achieve AGI and to make these AIs really creative and really give like a good experience, like a podcast that you listen to, like ours, right? We're talking about past experiences and everything. What if you train your AI models to have a backstory, give them life? In school, they were bullied, but then they became strong and they started working out at the gym and they changed their life, or they were really into books and they would read every day at the library. Like, what if you give your AI agents like a whole backstory, a whole life? Maybe you go to like people's personal like text messages and like journals, and like you train like people that have actual experiences, lived experiences, more than just being like act like Steve Jobs and just kind of like find some
Yeah,
writings of Steve
yeah,
Jobs.
yeah,
What if
yeah.
you give them those experiences, and then you're like, okay, now you're a marketer. You just spent the last 10 years in college learning all this, and then you were a growth hacker and you worked this job on the side and you did all these interesting things. Maybe people could like outsource their like work. Like you're training like I'm training an AI model today or for the next week, and it can watch everything I do and say, and it can take all that information in, and that's a week's worth of its like backstory training, and it can pass it around to other people. I don't know. What is your thought on that? If we gave them
Okay,
backstories
so
like
this is where
corporations and
I was so ready for this. I did not expect to go into Black Mirror, like, because but this is but Jane, to that point, right? Because it would absolutely have the capacity to do that, right? It would absolutely have the capacity to be given a backstory and to truly
Yeah.
believe what it is. I mean, almost, you remember in the original days of Sydney with, the New York Times when they first got access to Bing, and it just
Yeah.
jailbroke it over and over again until it revealed, like, I'm Sydney and I'm in love with you and bubble. You know what I mean? Like that's already uh, what they're trying to control for. So I have no doubt that the technology is there. But you raise an interesting point as well, which is I think you and I are thinking about this a little bit the same, which is we're thinking about AI, AGI, and correct me if I'm wrong, more in what does this do for in humanity and society and everything else. And what I'm reading from OpenAI's five things strikes me. I think you're actually helping me to clarify my issue with it. It's almost talking as if this is a business plan instead of the
Mhm.
different way that we're all going to totally work. Those five levels are very much along the lines of here's how somebody would progress to the office of the CEO. You get better and then you take on more responsibility and then ultimately you're really, you're capable of running a whole company. It almost sounds like a human level progression. And what I'm missing from this is what does this mean for humanity? And I'm not trying to get overly big about it, but really, like if it can, instead of just now it can run your company. I mean, robots can already run the warehouse in Amazon. That doesn't feel like a shift in humanity. That feels like a new feature of a robot that it can do that and it can move
Mhm.
inventory around. I think with AGI, the really amazing and terrifying and wonderful and everything else, the thing about AGI is that it's going to feel by definition almost like another human and really feel, not just mimic it, but make its own decisions and have emotions and feel things. And not just now it creates enough agents and can be innovative enough where it can run your company. That's so like, okay, for lack of a better word, Jaden, it sounds boring to me. It sounds like, I mean, what I want is
Sounds
to
sterile,
feel what
right?
this AGI. Yes, I want something more than just it's going to run
Okay.
your company.
Okay, I have a better way to pitch this that sounds less dystopian and sci-fi. So let me know if this better pitch works for you. And
I'm
actually,
listening.
depending on how AI box goes, this might be on the roadmap down the road of something that we
Cannot
integrate
wait for
and
that. I
do.
have my notebook out. Go on. I'm writing this down.
Okay, here's my better pitch for you. What if instead of train it on random people's backstories that are sort of fake backstories, what if we train the model off of you and your backstory, and you can rent out the Connor Grennan AI model with as much as you possibly
Wow.
can give it to people.
Yeah.
So when they say we're using AGI to run the whole organization, yeah, I'm running the organization, but I want Connor Grennan's AI model to do all our consulting for this. And I want this person's AI model that's an expert at Google Ads to run it for this. And guess what? They're not just an expert at Google Ads, they're expert at learning how Google Ads is changing because these things adapt and change. We can't just have an AI model that's trained on one thing. It has to know how to learn, or that person is adding new information. So I actually was talking to a friend about this recently, and I'm like, you have a marketplace where you can go and hire these different people that are like AGIs or agents or whatever, but they're actual real people, but you can go hire them. But it's like I only can consult X amount of people a year. You
Right.
can only go to conferences a
Right.
year. Yeah, but what if your AGI Connor could go to like 100 different companies in a day and go consult them and help them work out, their AI architectural plan. It would
Yeah.
be great for you to get paid, but also these people, because why would they not pick Connor? Why would they pick a second class person that doesn't have as much experience when they could get Connor? Now, my thinking was, okay, but with an AI model, usually you train the model and it's kind of got all your stuff. Even if you could get everything, and I mean like everything, all your experiences and everything you could ever remember embedded in there, like models change and your experience changes, and preferably you get better at whatever you work on. So my worry is everyone would train the model of themselves at their peak performance. Like you go
Right.
get the Tony Robbins today, and then Tony Robbins
Right.
is like, "Well, I'm already making so much money from this. I'm not going to keep practicing whatever I do anymore." And then the model gets like stale, doesn't get updated. So I'm like, you need people to
Yep.
keep working to keep updating it. And then my friend was like, "Well, you could just hire a team to update it." But I'm like, "But it's not the same person updating it." But then I'm like, "Does it
Amazing.
really
Yeah.
matter?" Or, anyways,
This is
thoughts.
this should almost be a two-part podcast, Jaden, because like I know we're sort of like coming up on time here, and it's I have hours more to say on this. Like, what does this mean for jobs if AGI is running an entire company? What does this mean for employment? What does this mean for everything. Jaden, we may have to revisit this or sort of like sneak it into another podcast because this is too big. And now you've gotten my brain spinning about the Jaden future, which I absolutely love. But for now, we're going to let people go about their day. They're probably waiting to get out of the car. Let me just say, this is usually the time, folks, where we pitch. Hey, can you leave us a rating and review? We would so appreciate it. But Jaden, not today. Not today. You know why?
Not
You know what
today.
we
We don't
hit,
even want
Jaden?
the reviews anymore. No
We
more
don't even
reviews.
want we don't even want guys, you have a vacation today. You know why? Because today's just about thanking you because we hit 100 ratings and reviews today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Cannot thank you enough. We do this because we love it, but it is hugely humbling to get that. That is absolutely awesome. Jaden, final thoughts?
Oh, just a big thank you to everyone. Seriously, we've been harassing you for so long, so we really appreciate it, and we hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.